acceptance of meetings from previous meetings. August 5th, 2015, regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, now we have a joint meeting with the cemetery trustees to this vacancy until next annual election on June 7, 2016. And we have a public meeting for that. It's going to be the public notice. Notices hereby given that the Board of Selectmen shall be accepting applications and letters of interest from registered voters of the town of West Boylston to fill the position of cemetery trustee until June 7, 2016 annual town election. Application or letters of interest will be accepted or addressed to Board of Selectmen, 140 Worcester Street, West Boylston, Mass. 01583. Applications will be accepted until 6:30 p.m. on August 19, 2015, and the Board of Selectmen, the cemetery trustees will meet at 7:05 in the Selectmen's Meeting Room of Town Hall, 140 Worcester Street, to interview candidates and jointly appoint a candidate to fill a vacancy until the next annual election. All right. We have 4 applications, is that correct?
Cemetery Commission?
Correct.
Cemetery Commission wanted to come up. We're gonna do all 4 together? Are we going?
Sure. No, I think we should do it individually. Yeah.
Okay. Gary, you want to do first? Just state your name and address, Gary. Just your name and address.
Gary Flynn, 416 Prospect Street, West Boylston, Mass.
Okay. Questions? You guys want to go first for questions?
Jack, I'm the chairman of the cemetery board, and I've never had a meeting with this many people in it, so I'm kind of shocked, you know? I guess my one question is, what quality can you bring to the Board of Cemetery Trustees?
I've had numerous years in the turf grass industry, a lot of building and everything else that has transpired during, especially here, I was park superintendent for 10 years. And my main thing is that I'd like to carry on what Aaron started. I know it's a tough pair of shoes to fill, but that's what I'd like to do and help Kevin and you people as much as I possibly can.
Okay. Pete?
Gary, I'm going to ask this of all the candidates. From time to time, we are in need of people to work, and if we have a situation where we have to have someone to get on the mowers, do we able to do that safely? Okay, thank you.
That doesn't happen very
Not
often,
often,
but it has happened.
It seems like I was born on a lawnmower.
Well, it's good.
We're pretty tight with money, in that we don't spend a lot of it. We try
Not
to,
you, Jack. Not you.
we try to stay within what the town gives us, and that basically is for the superintendent. The other money is from, we get from sale of lots and perpetual care interest and so on, and we try to operate within those parameters. There's no way that, do you have any ideas that we could make more money, or how we can save and do something with what we have?
You have to look at the books and see how you're investing.
The investment all goes to the town treasurer,
And
by law. Money goes to her, and she invests it, and then she tells us how much we have left. Actually, the town accountant's office does.
I'll do town?
We are looking, we're gonna be coming back to this board sometime in the next probably 3 or 4 years, just to see what we have for land in town that might be developed into a cemetery. Right now, we added on to the cemetery, we put in 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. One section is already gone, second section is filling, and the third and fourth haven't been laid out yet. But they're about the same size as the other two. So we're gonna be, in the future, be looking for more land. Hopefully, we thought we would be 30 years and it would be somebody else's problem. But what happens is, a lot of times lots get sold to families. So,
See, I don't, without actually looking at the, I don't know if it's possible to increase the lot dollar figure or not. I don't know. Perpetual care, I assume, has to stay at the price that it was sold, correct?
what happens is, we get to vote on the cost of the lot. Cost hasn't gone up in a long time because people just don't have the money, and we're not here to give them a hard time. So the lot hasn't gone up. A portion of that lot sale goes to perpetual care, and the rest goes to sale of lots. Okay, of which we can take some money out each year to help us get by.
But the interest rates haven't been good at all to,
On the perpetual care, the
Perpetual care, so.
interest rate, it's just very, very poor. We used to take in around 20,000 a year, now we're lucky if we take in 6,000.
I don't know, what the only thing I could say, have an auction for a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know with that.
I don't know if that would go over well with the board.
Yeah.
But I
We
will,
want to raise money, that was the
I
thing.
will tell you, when you have 40 committals a year, in a small town cemetery, it fills up real fast.
Sure.
So that's why, Jack, what the selectmen need to get some of this land issue resolved soon.
Well, the only thing is, I can see adding on, I don't know, we've been up to the other one there on 110. Make that, I mean, it's a nice.
That belongs to the Catholic Church, and it's surrounded by MDC property.
So we can't bury anybody up there?
Well, that would be up to the church, that's not our,
Springfield.
we
dies.
only have one cemetery, and that's Mount Vernon. The one in Oakdale is owned by a private organization, and the one on 110 is owned by the Catholic Church.
Have we ever been in negotiation with the Catholic Church?
I think we could if we decide that, if the
Guys,
board
we're
decides.
getting kind of get off subject, we just
Yeah.
wanted to interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, you have any questions?
No, I'm good. I'm
Siobhan?
good.
All right, one quick question. What do you see is the main role as a trustee in this position?
Well, like I said, to try to follow in Aaron's footsteps, to make it aesthetically sound and perfect as it is that Kevin has done. Kevin's done a great job down there, there's no question about it. I just want to see it keep going on the same way that it is.
Okay.
It's nice, there aren't too many cemeteries that, and I have to go to Amesbury to my parents, and that cemetery is completely, you can't put it in competition with this one here, so it's just, again, to add on and keep going with the same frame of mind that Aaron did.
Okay, thank you.
I'm all set.
Good.
Yeah, I guess following up with Mr. McCormick's question about saving money, would you, if you were a member of the committee, would you be open to possibly changing the committee to maybe an appointed committee and merging with the DPW, possibly to merge services, to save money? Would that be something you'd be open to discussing?
I would say, yeah, I would say yes. You know, I mean, if we can save money that way, and still, again, I don't want to get into one of those blanket contests, you know, between the head of the DPW and the board. But, you know, I think there's a pretty good way that you guys operate now. If you need something, it works, so. But in the long run, yeah, I would say, yeah, I'd be in favor of that. I think most towns are that way anyways now.
Correct. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you, Gary, appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
David Lindberg? Right. Hang on a second.
Hi, good evening. My name is David Lindberg, 47 Hillside Village Drive in West Boylston.
And I'll start off with my same question. What qualities can you bring to the cemetery that we may not have now?
Well, I think my work background, 40 years of organizational development, team building, that number one. I have prior experience serving the town, so I know the town. I've been here 65 years. Police officer, former selectman, former commissioner of light plant. So I know the workings of the town and the people, and I think my communication skills are working with all people.
Dave, I'm gonna ask you, if necessary, could you do physical work?
Now, I moved to Hillside Village for a reason, Pete.
The point is, I just want to make sure everybody clear that sometimes things happen and we have to.
I can rake and I can mow,
Thank you.
although I haven't had to do it for a few
Well,
years.
you never know when the opportunity comes.
Kevin, anything?
No, I'm fine. I did.
The same question to you. What do you see as the major role of a trustee to this?
Well, the trustees, you know, the overall supervision of the cemetery policy and procedures, setting pricing on interments and lots. It's a well-run department. I don't see making any big changes.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, you want the same
I would
question?
ask the same question. Would you be open to discussing possibly merging with the DPW, changing to an appointed committee? And the long run would be to keep good service down there and maybe save some money. But best is to keep.
I'd be open to discussing it. However, I think the budget this year is around $60,000, and most of that is salary. I'm not sure how much savings you would squeeze out of that, but I'd be open to discuss it.
And I forgot to ask Gary, but would you be interested in running? I guess it's up again in June.
Yes.
You would be interested in running.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Frederick Palmer? Not here. Frederick Palmer, he's not here?
I don't see it.
Okay. Val?
I just saw someone wave. Is Frederick Palmer outside? Frederick Palmer? No,
Okay.
someone waved, Mr. Chairman, I think. Evening. Val Cronin, 29 Pycroft Ave, West Boylston.
Gentlemen?
What qualities can you bring to the cemetery that we may not have now?
Well, I've had my own business for 45 years in construction, in roads, development, site development. So I think it could lend itself to any future development down there.
Now, we know we're getting a little older, but can you feel capable of physical labor if we have to do something down there?
I have no problem, I'm still doing
All
it.
right, so no surprises.
Kevin, anything?
No, I'm good.
Well, same question.
Mr. Bruno, yes, hi. What do you feel the role is, the main role of this position should be?
Well, I'd like to see them continue the restoration project that they've been ongoing. And also, I think there's possibility of development down there that maybe we should look at some niches down there with some of the land we have for cremations, because, you know, it would take minimal amount of land, but it would maximize the space. So I think it's worth at least exploring it anyway.
Thank you.
I have no questions.
And I'd ask the same question. Would you consider possibly to save money, keep the good service that we offer now by merging the departments together?
I think if the ongoing service they have right now with Mr. Roddy and Ed O'Berty, I think is working out well. If for some reason that changed, then I think that would, I would look for a different menu.
And you are interested in running in June when it comes up?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bill, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Gary, can I just ask, would you be interested in running in June when it comes up again?
Gary?
Gary, would you run in June if you can, what? Okay. All right, so now we need to roll call, vote, is that how we do it?
Discuss it.
We need to
Discuss it,
nominate.
okay.
No, we need to
good.
nominate.
Somebody needs to be nominated,
Oh, okay.
Should come from them.
Should come from the
right?
Does it come from them?
Board of Trustees, would you like to nominate one?
Or any discussion?
Any discussion first?
This is real hard because we've got three good candidates. I think I'm going to nominate Dave Lindberg for that one-year position.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
No, I have none.
Fine.
Any discussion?
I have no discussion on
Oh,
that.
can I just
Okay.
take that back? I am highly impressed at the amount of people that we had come out for this, and I'd like to thank all of you. Very impressive backgrounds, and I do hope, as all of you answered, that you would consider running again in the future. So with that being said, it's nice to see people wanting to get involved again in our town, so thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, so we need, now take a roll call, correct?
We vote first.
Vote,
No,
I think-
let's vote.
Nan's hope.
Nancy,
You're just going to vote, and you can nominate other people.
Other people can be
And
nominated.
you're going to vote on your menu of candidates.
right, okay.
So, and then you close the floor to nominations.
Okay. Does anybody else want to make a nomination?
I would say we defer to the cemetery trustees so that it's a less than a one-year position. They're gonna work with the candidate, so I would defer to them on their nomination.
So no nominations.
I would nominate Mr. Flynn.
I would second that. Any other discussion?
I'll nominate Mr. Bruno. I hate to leave anybody out of the race.
All right, I'll second it.
There you
All right. So now we take a vote.
go. Everybody gets to vote.
Jack, you first.
Dave Lindberg.
We'll go with Dave.
Kevin?
Oh, that's why we didn't leave it last. I'll vote for Val.
Okay.
I'll vote for Dave.
Over Mr. Flynn.
I'll vote for Dave.
And I'll vote for Mr. Flynn.
So I guess it's 4-2, is that correct?
4-2-1. Yep.
4-2. Thank you very much, and Mr. Lindberg.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate everybody coming in. Any other discussion on this? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is that your stuff, Chris?
No, no,
John
no.
Scanlon?
No,
Here
no.
he is.
And it's solidified. No,
All
no,
right,
it's-
John Scanlon, Regional Director of the Department of Conservation and Recreation, update on Wachusett Watershed Regional Recycling Center.
I'll be brief. Things continue to run well over there. As you know, it's managed day to day by Wachusett Earth Day, by volunteers. We've had a continual increase in usage of the center, I think without issue, which has been great. I think since we met last year, they've increased hours. They're now open Monday evenings as well. Put some lights up out there, so when the winter time comes, we're still out there most Monday nights in the winter, and had people show up, which amazed me. But other than that, I think things are running smoothly. As the board is probably aware, Wachusett Earth Day has entered into a new agreement to run the site, and 7 towns entered into a new 3-year agreement as a participating organization. So, unless you have a question, I think that's my very brief update for you.
We appreciate you coming in all the time. We do have some questions.
The last time we were here, we talked about offering some type of membership, or groups come in to use the facility outside of the 7 towns, or?
Yeah,
Is
at
that
this
a-
point, I don't think there's a lot of conversation going on around that.
Okay, so that didn't happen.
No, nothing more has happened. We would have needed to come back to you guys with a proposal at that point.
And then in regards to the 7 towns, I mean, I've gone a handful of times, the facility runs great, but they never ask me for an ID or anything, so basically,
Maybe you're very known.
no, I didn't know the people.
I will check with that.
I
because
just
they should
think
Yeah.
anybody can drive
They,
in there.
it is policy that people should be asking, and I definitely will bring that up.
Do they have to show a license ID?
The person checking you in is supposed to ask to see an ID. Yep.
Any other questions, Mrs. Scanlon?
I would, like I say, the times I've gone there, everything runs smooth, they get people in, get people out.
They do.
Works great.
I would like to know if you have continued to see this usage grow? Or is it just kind of leveled off?
It's not growing as rapidly, but there's still been an increase year to year in number of trips, number of users.
Okay.
So I guess at some point, I would expect that.
That's why I was wondering, have we hit
Level off,
the,
but
yeah, that's
It
what I
didn't grow as much in this past year as it had, say the
Okay.
previous year, but there's still continued growth in there.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody got rid of their stuff, all right. Throw away.
Any other questions?
No, I know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scanlon. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, public hearing on,
Have to wait.
It's not time.
oh, it's not 17. Okay, so old business.
No.
I don't want to do that yet.
New
Can do
business.
installation of Jake.
Oh, yeah,
Consider accepting.
installation of no break Jake sign. Chief, do you want to talk about this?
Where is he?
Chief?
I didn't even hear what you said.
Okay, chief.
We're talking about the no break Jake signs, and it was, you had said the last time that you didn't think they were necessary.
Right, basically, I've had a lot of conversations with different people. I did send a letter back saying my point of view on it. I think if we put some additional signage up, we're still looking at what laws have to be followed. Some roads it just wouldn't work, it wouldn't be legal. And I talked to various people that drive the big rigs and the dump trucks, and they are totally against it because it's a safety issue that's built into the trucks. And they think that the very minimal times that they're used, that it's actually dangerous not to use them because it actually is built to slow down the trucks. Basically, I think right now, we're doing a little more research, talking to some people, like, there was a complaint about where Maple Street and Shrewsbury Street split. I think if we put a little sign up saying, mostly for the truck drivers, industrial park, yield left, I think it'll help. Well, I also purchased, as part of a grant, some mobile signs for speed limits that, flash the speed you're going. It has a little computer program with it, so it'll tell me how many vehicles go by, what their speed is, the time of day, so that we get a better idea of where we need to do different enforcements. So and I talked to someone over at the DCR that has some information on the engine brakes that I'll work through and I'll report back.
And I've talked to quite a few people, and they always, it's a safety issue more than anything that everybody's worried about, and they didn't think it was correct not to allow them to use a Jake brake.
They're built into the vehicles,
Right,
so
exactly.
it's a safety mechanism.
Right. Any discussion on that?
No?
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Might as well stay there. Or, if you don't mind.
No,
I'll get Carol and Chris, you ready? No. We're
We
gonna do
can't-
that now?
Jim?
Jim?
be back.
We're gonna do the
I think we're gonna do the
hearing
public
at
hearing at 7:30.
Public hearing.
At 7:30.
Can't
We
do
just gotta wait till 7:30, that's it.
I thought you were passing on that.
Another minute.
New business.
Let's do some new business.
Take the money.
Can't do the agreement, yeah, we're gonna read that, right?
Bandstand.
How about concurrence on the appointment of John Schilling for Central Street of PEG Coordinator effective August 20th, 2015, for a term to expire June 30th, 2016, with a stipend of $250 per month.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consider accepting the following free will donations for the bandstand fund on behalf of the town. $184.11 from August 3rd concert, and $169.27 from August 9th concert.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Consider, we already did that.
No, we got.
No, we have
Oh,
to
I'm
do
sorry.
it here.
Consider ratifying a one-year contract by and between the Teamster Union Local 170 and the town of West Boylston.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Um,
7:30,
7:30.
7:30, okay.
somewhere.
All right, now we're gonna do a public hearing notice. Public notice is hereby given in conformity with the requirements of the general bylaws of the town of West Boylston. Article 23, public hearing and notice that the Board of Selectmen will meet on Wednesday, August 19th at 7:30 PM for the purpose of considering amendments to policy L21, use of the town common sign board policy, and policy L18, beautification of town squares and island policy. The meeting will be held at Selectmen's Meeting Room 210 of the town office located at 140 Worcester Street, West Boylston. All right. We can start the public meeting.
Which one are we doing
Sure,
first?
want to look at the beautification of
Yes,
the town
let's-
squares
let's do
first?
the
The
town.
board had a desire to strengthen the language in this, so that applicants understood that they needed to actually plant their islands and their squares. So I tried to modify the language to include that, and we also wanted to include the new island at the base of Prospect Street where it meets Goodale Street.
Yeah.
We've added that on, and there was an interest in including the cement island at Maple and Shrewsbury Street, so we've also added that to the policy. So now we have 2 additional islands that we can offer, and we've strengthened the wording.
And so everybody understands, the DPW director is the enforcement officer on that. Am I correct?
If you look at,
Yeah.
yes, on page 3,
Yeah.
if at any point the DPW director or his designee deems that a square or an island is unsightly due to the lack of care, the participant in the program will be notified by the town administrator of the need for maintenance. And after that notification, the island is inspected 2 weeks later, and if it's still found to be unsightly, then the director or his designee has the ability to remove the Adopt an Island sign, and the person or business may forfeit their right to plant or advertise on the square of the island.
Discussion?
I move that we accept the new policy.
I'll
No,
second.
we have to come out of the public hearing, right, to do that?
We'll go on to the next.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
I just have a question in regards to the Maple and Shrewsbury Street. You said cement.
It's almost like a cement island, and at the last meeting, Mr. McCormick wanted to be able to put a barrel there. We're not able to put barrels on any cement islands that are on state roads. They don't allow it, but that's not a state. We own both of those roads.
So the whole thing talks about, the whole policy, trash removal, weeding, planting of flowers, shrubs, spreading mulch, watering. So how would all that fall under they'd have to bring, the person that gets it would have to bring in barrels? No, it says no pots or barrels shall be allowed.
Unless you get approval, right? And
It
the
says, are
DPW.
strictly prohibited on any island on state property per state guidelines.
Right.
Right.
But that was something that Mr. McCormick felt strongly about.
That's not state property.
No, so we're gonna let them put,
It's up to you, it's your policy.
The policy, as it's written, doesn't say anything about what will happen on the cement island, though.
it talks all about planting flowers and shrubs and spreading mulch. They're not gonna do any of that on a cement slab.
So would you like to modify this, say,
We would have to put something in about.
Well, it says, wait, you can, but you have to put mulch around your plantings in the barrel. You gotta weed the barrels. You gotta weed around that. I mean, the one up at Maple Street, the weeds are higher than the square. You gotta weed whack them down around the edge. You gotta take care of the weeds that grow up around the square. So that's weeding. As far as maintaining your barrels, you gotta weed those. You can't have weeds growing taller than the plants. So you are gonna be doing basically everything it says, and it says that no pots or barrels shall be allowed in any plantings without the concurrence of the DPW director. So, it says that you can, you just have to get his approval. Obviously, you can't put a 12-inch barrel on a 12-foot barrel on a 6-foot wide island. That's not gonna probably work very well. But, I just thought it would look nice up there. It's all weeded and just ugly.
I agree, and I don't think we need to write it, separately what we have to do for each island. I think
Right.
that would encompass it.
They'd have to put a barrel, because it's the only place they can
Right.
put the sign on that eye.
But it's
That's
okay,
right, yeah.
it's okay to
Maybe-
put it along with the DPW director.
But it can't, the
That's okay.
shrubs can't exceed 24 inches, so if the barrel's
Just-
24 inches, can it be shrubs over that?
Well, don't put shrubs, just put some flowers.
I just want to make
That's
it,
all. You don't have to have big shrubs in your barrel, just put some little flowers.
And Mr. Chairman, the DPW director would be working with the people doing this, so
Right.
it would be with
And he would,
his understanding.
and he would be responsible, if there's a problem with it, he
Right.
would contact the,
Right,
whoever's the holder is of the property, and then they would contact us, I would imagine, but
absolutely.
the inspector, the administrator.
they all,
I have sent one letter out already, Mr. Chairman, in response to a complaint about an island, so, and that awaits further action, but, that's consistent with your present policy. I did send
2
a,
weeks to respond.
I made a one-week allowance for a vacation, for a pending vacation, and then 2, and it's up now.
are all the squares currently have owners? All the squares currently have somebody?
Currently, no, we need a home for, Malden and Goodale. That one was not adopted, and we need, and then we added the other 2 on.
And then Woodland we're taking off.
Correct.
He had somebody for Malls and Goodale, but they
They backed
dropped.
out.
Oh, they dropped it.
Any discussion on this, on that policy?
No.
So you had a,
No.
oh, we're gonna do them both together,
Yeah.
okay. Let's do the sign policy, sign board policy.
This policy, the board had a desire to have the responsibility of the town common sign board in the office of the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. So this was just modified to make that change. And we will also install the software for the sign on the office of the emergency management director. I spoke with the fire chief, and he's talked about the wording, and he suggested that the emergency management director will be allowed to post meetings during emergency situations only. Instead of state emergency, which ties our hands a little bit more. So he says we'll have a little more freedom with that language. And that's how we modified the policy.
Because before, it used to be the recreation director was responsible for the sign.
It was actually the Parks Commission,
Parks Commission?
and they designated that individual.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion on that?
The 60-second thing is a bylaw.
That's gonna, the planning board has to have a
That's a
public hearing
bylaw,
on
right?
that, yes.
That's been remanded. The board voted to forward that to the planning board for a public hearing and report for the October 18th
Question
town
is, it's a
meeting.
bylaw, it's not a policy, so that's why we have to go through that. Okay.
That is correct.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, now,
Make a motion, we come on. No, do we close the public hearing?
I'll second.
Anybody from the public?
Anybody from the public have anything to say? State your name, please.
Christopher Herbert, 370 Worcester Street. Just a little bit of a quick follow-up question about the barrel on the island. Is there any question raised about if somebody were to hit the island, if there's any obligation to the person who put the barrel there? Are they legally responsible for doing that?
Very good
Put something
question.
on an island,
It's on-
otherwise doesn't have
it's on us.
something there. Here's the thought.
That would be on us. That's town-owned property that,
Okay. Just-
so it's on us, yeah,
I guess as long as it's approved by the DPW director, we take ownership of the issues.
precisely.
Yeah.
All right. Now, motion and second to close the public hearing.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a
No, do
motion, make a motion, we accept the sign board policy and, what do you call it, the town square?
Signboard in the, yeah.
Island program.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Jimmy, the full business? The other one we can start now because that's not a Wayne's weaponry, all business.
Installation, oh, is that on the,
You want to do something? Why don't we do that? Wayne's weaponry. Maybe all these people are here, I'm sure they're not here for something else.
do we need our lawyer?
All right, well, let's get our lawyer and Mr. Lund from the building inspector. And chief, please.
How many people are outside? Thanks, Chris.
They're losing them. People are coming in.
Thank you.
You tell them to do it, Chris.
How are we doing with numbers in the room?
Are we okay with people in the room?
We're just at the limit, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have discussion on this. We just ask everybody, keep it civil, keep it, questions to what was the topic, and then we can go from there. Carol, would you like to make a statement first? Chris, you want to do it first?
I can start.
Okay.
Sure.
Anybody doesn't know, this is Chris Lund, the building inspector.
So the topic at hand is, I'm going to approach from a zoning standpoint, what we went through with zoning and 251 Laurel Street, which is the residence of Wayne and Mary Armstrong. That residence has a gun shop located on it. And then 241 Laurel Street, which is a next door property, that's owned by a trust, the Armstrong Family Trust, of which Wayne is the sole trustee. And then there's also a landlocked parcel that's attached to this whole group at the backs of the property. So I'll present to the board a description on that property and then some of the surrounding area so that you get some sense of what's going on. So packet 1 in color is what speaks to that. So as I just mentioned, the page 2 is the group of property as a whole. And then the next page, group 3, breaks down that group into 3 separate parcels. So you have 251, a little over an acre, 241 at 12.6 acres, and then the landmark parcel at 9.5 acres. Combined, it's a little over 23 acres. This page, a little hard to visualize, but the point of the left-hand side of the page is to show the approximate firing range, and they're faint, but the parcel borders are on there. And the point there is that the firing range is solely on 241's parcel. And you can just barely make out a darker gray area in the upper left-hand corner in that same color pick that shows the buildings on 251. And then the aerial view, I point out all the structures. 241, the primary residence is a single-family home. 251 the same. Point out the gun shop at the back of 251's parcel, and then again, the firing range location. The next slide depicts a broader view of the area, and I just wanted to point out, I guess first of all, the parcel that we're talking about is up here off of Laurel Street, and up here, excuse me, off of Laurel Street. And so the white depicts that we're in a single residential district. So then a blow up of that area, we have in red that combined a little over 23 acres of land that the Almstroms own. Then we have in green, what's outlined in green is a combination of DCR-owned land that you can't build on. It's all conservation land that the state owns. We have a couple of parcels in here that are landlocked. That's owned by actually Worcester County. This parcel is owned by a gentleman in Sterling, but again, it's landlocked within the middle of that DCR land. And then there's a parcel next door that's privately owned, but it had received many years ago a tax lien from the Board of Assessors to only be taxed for forestry purposes. That combined area, a little over 21, 22 acres, okay?
Is that 44 and 37 that you're talking about?
44 and 43. So
Right to the north of 44.
it's all along Laurel Street,
Oh, yeah.
and then you get to the first house.
Okay.
37 is actually DCR land,
Oh, that goes.
okay? There is a little strip through here that the town owns, and then you're back into DCR land. The town owns this piece right here, and then here and here DCR. But this little trapezoidal chunk is that forestry land. So we got not a lot of houses, very low density, can't be built on. The only caveat with the land that can't be built on is the forestry piece could convert back. However, speaking with the town assessor, they'd have to pay a 5-year rollback on taxes, and then the town has first rights to the parcel. Your first house from this corner of the Almstrom property is actually on the opposite side of the street up here. It's about 500 plus feet from the front corner of the lot. Your next house on the same side is up here past the forestry land, which is a little over 1,000 feet down the street.
Mr.
And that
Chair.
firing range area is right about here.
That's right.
Are those houses that you're saying, is heading towards Holden? Or
No.
you're heading back into town?
This is Laurel Street heading
Okay.
back towards town.
Okay.
Here's 190.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure we were heading back to town.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then one other thing I'm pointing out on this map is over here, H17, and I'll have other detail further on, is actually an access gate into DCR on land. And you'll see that that H17 gate is about 1,000 feet into, off the corner of the Almstrom property. And this black dotted line, dash line, is the Holden line, so you're just over the Holden line.
Yep.
So we're on the Manning Street side, but again, just 1,000 feet away from the property. So your stats are on the next page. The acreage north of Quinnapoxet that can be built on currently is about 98 acres surrounding the Almstrom property. And then south of the Quinnapoxet is about 435 acres. So you had a combined acreage through here of 533. So I recognize that on Laurel Street, before I move forward, you know, we have folks all along Laurel Street through here. I mean, you can see the parcels. Rivington is here. And then south of this chunk of land, we get into the Malden Street, Pine Arden, Townsend, all through here. Okay. And then on this page, this is a map that I obtained from Massachusetts DCR relative to hunting rights in the area. There's a locus map here. You know, it's West Boylston, Holden, Rutland, Paxton. To put it in perspective to Laurel Street, the firing range. The firing range is right here. This little square here.
Yeah.
This purple dot is that H17 gate. All the land that is highlighted in pink on the map denotes land the DCR allows folks to hunt on. You can see there's a chunk up in the upper left-hand corner of West Boylston on the commercial limited industrial area where you can hunt. And again, that gate is 1,000 feet west of the Almstrom property. But then the area that it accesses is south into the west side of I-190. And the rail trail actually goes into that land. There's actually a sign posted on the rail trail just west of I-190 warning folks that you're entering into hunting land. And then that rail trail ends over in River Road on the Holden side. So that's the area that the Almstrom property is. Packet 2 speaks to the zoning issues that we ran into and what I was asked to investigate. And at the back of Packet 2 is a bit of a history on the process that we went through. So I'll start with the original special permit. That's what you see in the first 2 pages of the black and white Packet 2. The arrow points to the findings, 6A. And I point this out because this is largely what folks are focusing in on this decision that was given to the Almstroms back in October of 1993. And it just states that the proposed use, and they're speaking to the home occupation of the gun shop at 251 Laurel Street, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Town of West Boylston zoning bylaws for the following reasons. A, that's not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, and B, that it complies with section 3.5 A and B, which is about home occupation. The second page is just the signing page of that special permit. Next page, I was able to track down the minutes from that meeting, and I was curious on whether the firing range had come into play when they were discussing approving the special permit. And the arrow points to Ms. Freeman, and she stated, the lines state, discuss signs and the alarm system in relation to a possible break-in. She also asked if there's a firing range behind the home. Wayne responded by stated that there is a firing range behind his father's house, which abuts Wayne Almstrom's home. It still stands today. That firing range is on the trust land at the back. Ms. Ward, on the next page, stated that firearms cannot be released within 500 feet of any other property. She stated that Wayne Almstrom's father has a target range and asked if Wayne Almstrom is within the proper distance. She also concerned about loaded guns and ammunition stored in the home. Wayne Almstrom stated that he is within the required range for a firing range. It was explained that the guns and the ammunition are stored separately. Almstrom also stated that he has welded bars on the cellar windows to deter burglars. So those were the references that I was able to find to the firing range. Next page is the actual formal complaint my office received on March 5th. And the complaint is relative to an alleged violation of the home occupation bylaw. The next page is the letter that accompanied it, and I won't read the letter in full, but it just, again, denoted to the biggest complaint written here was really that noise in excess of what is normal in the neighborhood. And the home occupation shall not create a hazard to persons or property, result in electrical interference, or become a nuisance, is the portion of the home occupation bylaw that the complaint was filing against. The next page is, and I'll speak to what we went through to find out. The next page is just a little history that June 1990 is when the town zoning bylaws first saw recreational use called out in its use table under the zoning bylaws. And that was about 2.5 years prior to the special permit sought by the Almstroms on the home occupation of the gun shop. And that June 1990 issuance, it reads just like it does today. Outdoor commercial recreational use, not allowed in single residential district. Prior to that, 6789, the closest use category was theaters, bowling alleys, skating rinks, and similar commercial amusement enterprises. Was as you can imagine, the bylaws back then were pretty vague, and that was the closest grouping. The next couple of pages are really the evidence that was presented to us relative to what the order was against, which is a commercial recreational outdoor use. This is evidence filed by different individuals The resources were different websites, northeastshooters.com, Go Reviews, usacarry.com, ar15.com, and it related to, one comment here was, best part is I could shoot any used gun he had if I bought the ammo from him. Or some of the excerpts that we read. Okay. So there's a couple pages of that, and then we get into one that has this Cloverleaf Firearms Group, is the top of the page. That's actually a copy of the calendar, and there was evidence of classes being held at the firing range on behalf of this Cloverleaf Firearms Group. In the classes, as you can see in the blow-up, denote Wayne's Weaponry is the location. I won't go into all the other excerpts. And so the kind of the summation of all that is under the page title range, zoning use, based on reviews of Wayne's Weaponry through the internet. That's where we had determined that folks using the range only knew of it through connection via the business. And that commercial range use on the parcel owned by the trust is not customarily incidental to the primary use or accessory to a single-family residence. And then thirdly, it's just that the zoning district at the time the use began was single residence. And we did confirm via research that the zoning board of appeals was never sought for a use variance for a commercial recreational outdoor use. Next page is the actual order. That was hand-delivered July 31st. Again, I know we said it a few times, but it was the outdoor commercial recreational use that the order was issued against. And then the last two pages are a brief history of the process that we had gone through. It all started beginning of March with a phone call from Dr. Stephen Davis relative to the complaint of noise. And then I just denote a follow-up email that I had received from Dr. Davis against that conversation, of which at the time the general notion was that he wasn't seeking to stop the business, just looking for the noise to subside. And then I received the actual formal complaint a few days later. I responded to everybody on the 10th of March because the Almstrom's vacation down in Florida, so there was I had no communication available to them and until they got back. It was the beginning of April. And then April, I asked if I could visit the site and take a look at this firing since I'd never seen it before. I was able to do that with Wayne, and at that present time, having seen the gun shop and where it was located, and that there was no range right there next to the gun shop. It was at the garage where it's always been, and the yard was as it had always been. I found no violation direct with the gun shop. Then, having looked at the firing range area, and asked Wayne if there was the opportunity to do something with this range to have the noise subside, to make the residents more comfortable. And that's when we had developed the first compromise, which was Wayne was going to put a barricade next to where they fire from, and back it was sand, and that would deaden the sound coming from the muzzles when they used the firing range. I gave notice to all parties a few days later, that's number 9. And then about a week after that, number 10, that's when someone else from the group that Dr. Davis had represented had emailed stating that they were confused as to why a compromise and why the business, there wasn't a cease and desist on the noise altogether, and of the, in particular, the special permit. And then the last page, so given that complication, that the first compromise wasn't satisfactory to all, to everybody, I ended up going back over to Wayne. He had actually purchased the posts, so hang tight until we find out, what we're looking for here. And a second compromise was then requested from that group mid-May. And I list that as number 11. That's an excerpt from the email I received with that group's request. And then in June, I had presented that to Wayne. Given the months that had transpired, at that point Wayne was seeking some advice from his counsel on what his options were at that point. Roughly around the same time, I had received the excerpts from the internet, those that I showed you from the individuals. That's the first sign of evidence that we have commercial use there. And then beginning of July, just after that, beginning of July is when I actually received a letter from Bowditch and Dewey on behalf of Dr. Davis, of which they were looking at this point, a complete cease and desist of the operation based on commercial range use. And after that letter, that's when we drafted the order, and we sought our counsel to have it vetted to see if there was grounds, and then we ended up issuing the order at the end of it. That's the zoning side of it.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Sal, would you like to say something?
Good evening, members of the board. Carolyn Murray, Town Council. Chris actually covered most of it pretty well, and we've been having lots of exchange of telephone calls and emails lately discussing this issue. So I think at this point, we want to open it up to discussion, and maybe we circle back for some comments afterwards, perhaps.
Thank you. Anybody on the board have anything to say first?
I just want to make sure I understand exactly what's going on. The order is because there's a zoning bylaw, he cannot operate a commercial range. Doesn't say anything whatsoever about firing his own weapons or his family members' weapons or his friends' weapons at the range. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And that's commercial outdoor recreational use, yeah, not specifically a commercial range.
Does anybody from the public have anything they want to say? Yes, sir. Just come up, state your name and your address, please.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm Doug Miller. I live at 204 Laurel Street. And when I heard that Wayne was being shut down, I couldn't understand why. I mean, he's been shooting there since 90. Actually, we were shooting even before that, before he had his gun shop. And nobody's ever complained. And I never heard of any of this coming on, and I'm a neighbor of him. And if there's a hearing for something like this, why wasn't I as a neighbor notified? Doesn't make sense. Because to me, I find all of this work to be a lot of waste of money for something that's been existing. You did a wonderful job, but I don't see any reason for it, because somebody bought a house nearby. It's like somebody buying a house near Sterling Airport and then complaining because there are airplanes flying by. I mean, the airport's been there forever. Wayne has been there. If you buy the house, he had to have been blind not to be able to see the signs. And he must have been deaf if he was there not to have heard the shooting. And he still bought the house. I mean, this is stupidity. And I would kind of hope you people are not that stupid. Have some common sense. The guy has been running this. As far as I know, Wayne has never charged anybody for using the range. If you want to buy one of his guns and try it, buy the ammo from him, go out there. That's what any gun shop would do. You don't take the gun and bring your own ammo because he doesn't know what the ammo is. This is somebody trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. I think you should just give them the variance for that piece of property to run. I
Okay.
actually miss the sound of the guns. It's too damn quiet.
No variance has been applied for as of.
We don't do it
We
anyway.
don't do variances anyhow.
We wouldn't do it anyway, the
Thank you, sir.
zoning board.
Kevin?
Okay, I just have a, so if I were to go over to Wayne's today and buy a gun, can I go out and shoot it on his range, on that range?
I am going to defer that question to the town council, because it has been one we've been batting around in.
I mean, is that considered commercial use, or is that just considered?
It's arguably part of the commercial use, yes. But ultimately, commercial use is not allowed in the single residential zoning district. Not without either a use variance, which doesn't apply because there isn't one here, or if we even looked at the home occupation special permit that was specifically for the repair and sale of guns. But the special permit went to one parcel, the range is actually on another parcel. So I think someone could make a very reasonable argument that if someone is going to purchase a gun from Wayne and wants to go out and shoot it, and if Wayne sells him the ammunition and he then drives further back to the range and fires it, one could argue that's related to his commercial business that he's got going on the other property. On the other hand, one could also argue that that's just Wayne allowing someone onto his property, and he's not charging a special fee for that person to use the range. I suppose the question would become, what would happen if Wayne said to the person wanting to test out the gun, do you buy it without then trying it? Kind of like, do you buy a car without test driving it? I think that's an argument that could be made either way. Ultimately, whether or not that is a commercial use of the range, I think is something that, hate to defer this back to the building inspector, but it becomes a matter of for him to determine, does he think that's commercial? Or does he just think that that is just Wayne as a property owner allowing someone on his property with his consent to fire a weapon?
Have you had, and do you do any research to see if there's any case law similar to a situation such as this and which way it came out on?
We've actually done an awful lot of research on this, and for all of the statutes that exist relative to the discharge of firearms, there isn't a lot of case law that actually interprets the commercial component. Most of the cases just talk about shooting galleries, fire ranges. There really isn't a distinction made between whether there's a commercial nature versus a recreational nature, or a using someone's property without a fee being charged. The cases don't really get into that level of detail because there are a lot of exceptions in the various firearm statutes that if you're 500 feet from a dwelling, if you're 150 feet from a paved or hard surface road, and you have the permission of the property owner, you can go on the property and you can use that property for any lawful purpose. One of the things that the courts, one of the questions that the courts tend to leave open is whether or not these things are addressed through zoning, locally through zoning. And if you had a prohibition against firing ranges in a single residential district, we might still be having the same question, because we might still be saying, well, have we prohibited commercial firing ranges, or have we prohibited a recreational use of one's private property? When we start to think of, one of the cases that I read prior to coming here tonight, and this is something the chief and I had talked about, was the Northborough case. And the Northborough case has some language in there that talks about a recreational use of people using their property. Now, we may all have a different idea of what we do in our backyards. Some of us may have pools, some of us may have gardens, some of us may have dogs, some of us may have ATVs that we drive through. If we've got the proper size yard, we might drive some of those through our backyards. Some folks may then also have a firing range, or may target shoot in their backyard if they've got an adequately sized property for it. So I think there's an argument to be made that there could also be a recreational use here as well.
So, just a couple more quick questions. So you gave Wayne's a cease and desist because of this cloverleaf thing that looked like it was a commercial. Now, obviously, I'm assuming they charge a fee or something, whatever, I don't know. I can't see that, but that's why you issued it. Not because he was shooting on it.
Yeah.
Or necessarily that me as the gun buyer was shooting on it.
Cloverleaf, that was more of a case to issue than the individual's use.
Okay.
Because somebody was making money off of holding a class.
Okay.
And that commercial class was being held on that private property. That's not something you normally see in the backyard of a single-family residence.
Okay. I just have one more quick question. In the,
I'll get to you in a second.
it says in the special permit, it says, town, number 6A, is not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. How do you determine the neighborhood? For instance, I hear the guns at my house. I live on Prescott Street. I certainly don't consider myself in Wayne's neighborhood. He's practically on the other side of town for me.
Yeah.
So how do you consider a neighborhood? What's a neighborhood? Is it 100 feet from your house? Is it 1 point, I don't know how many miles the gentleman told us the other night he lived, 1.3 miles as the crow flies away from his house. What is a neighborhood? How do you determine the area of a neighborhood?
It's a great question. It tends to be case by case. If you have a closed neighborhood that's a loop, and I consider that a neighborhood versus, in this case, Laurel Street, which is a long road, as we know, and it's not a cul-de-sac or a closed-off loop neighborhood. But to your question regarding it being detrimental to the neighborhood, I'd be looking for the complaints in the immediate vicinity of that property.
So this gentleman who's on Laurel Street hasn't complained.
Correct.
It's somebody that lives 3.5 miles away, 1.5 miles away, complains. So you would say his complaint would be a little more, I'm not saying valid isn't the right word, but his might sit a little different than the one that's 3.5 miles away.
Correct. In regards to the special permit being allowed, if the immediate area abutters, is it a 300-foot radius like we use with variances and for notification, special permit notifications, if those abutters that were notified when the special permit was being put to public hearing back then aren't the same folks now complaining that, hey, we went through that special permit hearing on the notion that our neighborhood wasn't going to be any different, and now it is. That has more bearing.
Can I? He said something else back, said quite a while. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, all,
Have your
my name
name.
is Jill Welch, I live in Townsend, and I hear the gunshots all the time. I'd like to make a motion to pay back Wayne's lawyers up until this point, because as a small business owner that was looking to move into this town after 15 years of business, I am certainly gonna look second at this. You guys came in and you put a cease and desist on a business before you did your homework. You cost the business owner their livelihood to pay for a lawyer that may not have been needed. We're in that neighborhood, right, I don't know if you know where Townsend is, so are we considered one of those neighbors? We're not complaining. And I mean, as we're sitting here, I was a realtor in California when I got out of the Marines, and I understood the people that I was selling houses to. We had to do our homework to understand where we were living. He's been there far longer than the people that are putting the complaints in. So I'm completely agreeing with the fact that it's buyers beware. Secondly, whose lawful order as a town was it to revoke somebody's license? Is that not a state police issue? Is that not a state issue? For you guys to come in and revoke a business license? I understand the business licenses are obtained by the town, but you came in and shut basically business down without doing your homework. And as far as the people, I understand there were 7 signatures to stop this business. I had an issue with a dentist in town, that we won't name names, cost me $3,000 to get my children's teeth fixed. Can I get 7 people together to get them kicked out of town for negligence? Is this how this all works? And one more point. Nobody knew about this in the town. We looked on Facebook to find out what was going on. A lawyer friend of mine called me yesterday to let me know that this was happening. But we didn't know what was going on in your last meeting. So as a business owner, thinking about coming into town, do you honestly think that I would want to come here? Because if you didn't like my business, or somebody else didn't like my business, that I got a business license for, you can come in and shut me down and cost me, money to find a lawyer? Do you think this is the way business is supposed to be run? So I do put a motion with my tax dollars to pay back Wayne's lawyers. I don't know how that can work, and I don't know how we can get a vote on it, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a frivolous action taken against a business owner. And I am one of the people that go up there, and I've known him for a lot of years. He has never once charged me. And these classes that you're talking about are safety classes. So, should we not have safety classes, or do you just want people going out on the range and doing what they want, or whatever we're calling it at this point? But I know I have never been charged in the 13 years that I have been back in Massachusetts. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
On behalf of Mr. as his
Wait,
counsel.
one second, please. One second, please.
As his counsel.
Mr. Chairman, is that Wayne's counsel?
Okay, good.
The gentleman?
Is it okay if I sit up there so I can see you and you can see me? Because I really can't stand up that well. My name's Ed George. I'm a lawyer. My office is in Woburn, 444 Washington Street. I've been down with Mrs. Mary Alstrom today to look at this range. I've had this case for a week, but I did view it, and I did speak to Mr. Alstrom, who's in Canada at this time. And it's a little bit troublesome to me that this entire thing about his business, his occupation, and separately his property is an issue before the Board of Selectmen. And I'm told by him yesterday on the phone, he didn't know this hearing or this meeting, this subject was going to come up. So I have a due process problem with it. I have a due process problem with the thing being brought forward by the people who are complaining about him, okay, to the board. Whether or not those people know that he's not here and he's in Canada, I don't know. There is a statute. That statute is called, it's mentioned 214.7b in the Bowditch and Dewey letter, chapter 214, section 7b. And I know right away somebody's going to jump and say, oh, this isn't about noise. This case is about noise. This matter is about noise. The doctor who initiated the series of 6 complaints, all of which are verbatim the same complaint, albeit signed apparently by different people. I couldn't read some of the signatures. The doctor lives a mile away. The doctor bought the house long after Wayne's weaponry was established, long after Mr. Alstrom established a range on 241. I get it confused. 251 is 1 acre, 241 is 28 acres. The gun shop is on the 1 acre site. His house is on the 1 acre site. They're separate buildings. The gun range, the shooting range that he has, which is informal, okay, but it's very clearly, because I went and looked at it, I took some photos with my trusty cell phone. I drove down in my Jeep and I looked right at the backstop. It's been there for a long time, okay? And anybody that knows shooting ranges, and I think I do, can see that that berm, that backstop has been used for many years, as has the place where the firing points are. In fact, Mrs. Alstrom tells me that Wayne has shot there for well over 40 years. Okay. Well, 40 years is before the town's zoning bylaw. And the statute, chapter 214, section 7B says, notwithstanding the provisions of any general or special law, rule, or regulation to the contrary, no owner of a rifle, pistol, silhouette, skeet, trap, black powder, or other similar range shall be liable in any civil action or criminal prosecution in any matter relating to noise, okay, relating to noise or noise pollution, okay, resulting from the use of the range, said owner of the range was in compliance with any applicable noise control law, ordinance, or bylaw in existence at the time of the construction of such range. Now, when this statute was passed, nobody was talking about, and someplace I have the legislative history because I helped write the statute. Nobody was talking about indoor ranges, they were talking about outdoor ranges that had firing points and backstops. That's what they're talking about, okay? This case is about noise, and allegedly it's about noise pollution. I submit to you it's about something else. Because if you go and stand out there like I did, and you know I'm 69, I walk with a cane in a bad way, okay? I wear an AFO, but I still go and look at things before I talk about it. There's a roar on that range today. There were no guns being fired. And that roar comes from I-90 or 290 or 190. Whatever, I don't even know the name of the road. Forgive me, I live in Arlington. I know how to get to Worcester. I've been to Worcester in court so many times I can't count in the last 40 years, okay? But that highway has a huge amount of ambient, that is background noise. Decibel level from those firearms being fired there, okay, is less than half the decibel level from the doctor talking to whoever else is with him, having a conversation in his house. Not loud like me, and I apologize for that. That's the way I am, okay? But my nickname is Taz, okay? Sorry about that. I am what I am. But loud in the sense of ordinary, common, civilized conversation. And the highway, many times, blanks it out, okay? This is not brought because of the noise. I submit to you, there's another motivation. It's brought because of the fact that some people don't like guns and they don't want guns there. Now let me talk to you for a second, if I will, and I don't mean to bore you, and I apologize for doing that if I do. Let me talk to you about the legal issue that my sister counsel, that's what we call each other at the bar, okay, addressed, which is you can make an argument one way, you can make an argument another way. There is no way, in my opinion, that you can prevent Mr. Alstrom from going out and shooting on his range. There's no way that you can prevent someone who is not in some way shooting on the range for compensation to him from using that range. It was there before the bylaw. It complies with all the statutes. It's not too close to any residential house. This statute protects it from noise pollution, as it says in the statute. What you would have to do to make argument A that Carol brought up, okay, is you'd have to prove that there's some financial I think the word is emolument or something. There's some financial gain to him by the use of the range. That would be an evidence issue. So does he charge more money for the guns and ammunition he sells than other similarly located gun dealers in the hood, okay, which is a big hood, Worcester County? Does he charge more than the other people do? Or does he charge less? Well, if he charges less, how's he making money on the range? Are people going there to buy guns from him just because they can shoot the gun there, or they can try the gun out? Or are they going there because A, he has better prices, B, he has a better inventory, C, they like him? As this lady mentioned back here, independent business people, I would submit to you, I've represented independent business people all my life, okay? Miscellaneous iron people, contractors, you name it, retailers. Most people go someplace to small business because they like the people that run the business, not because they have a free range where they can pop off a couple of shots with a bore of gun. So there's a huge issue here of legal proof before you can say, okay, and I don't know how you get to it without violating some civil rights. You, sir, have Ed George shooting on your range for money. Well, what if Ed George says, no, I like Mr. Olson? What if Ed George says, you know what, he's cheaper than the other people around here? What if Ed George says, I could get out to Walmart, I don't know if you have one right in West Boylston, hopefully you don't, but anyhow. I could get out, and I promise you, any judge in the Superior Court is going to recognize this, right? This testimony, right away, he's going to say, he or she is going to say, you got it. He can go, I could go into Walmart, but the people behind the counter don't know anything about guns or ammunition. And the judge is going to say, just like they don't know anything about washing machines, just like they don't know anything about electrical, vacuum cleaners, and the judge is going to say, he or she says, yep, I've been there, done that. You know, walked up and down the aisle and looked for help. So I get to the point where I say to you, you can say to him that, in this argument, that somehow the range was excluded at the time the permit was granted for the gun shop, is just poppycock. The range is not part of the business. The range pre-existed the business. The range was not presented as being integral to the business. So I would respectfully say to you, although I'm a lawyer, I can't make any motions, that this order that's been issued by the zoning enforcement officer should be voided because it's not valid. And I would suggest to you that you might look at whether it's Dr. Davis, who is a sleep physician, okay, or maybe he has a thing about guns, maybe some of the other people do. Look, I've seen this before. I've seen this in 2 or 3 other cases. The last one being, and it's a matter of record, it's in court, the Waterford Fishing Game Club up in Maine, shut down, or attempted to be shut down by a guy who lived 1.1 miles away from the range, right? He got some people to sign his thing too. I think there were 4 of them who signed out of 39 people, all of whom were closer than he was. And that, I'm going to submit to you, this is a personal thing. I know you guys don't like to hear it's personal because you represent the whole town and you're a lady and gentleman. It's personal. He doesn't want the gun range there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Kevin?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Motion to support the ordinance. I would like to see.
Wait a minute, Kevin.
Are we voting on the motion? I guess I want to be clear, because this is the most we've ever reviewed any of this. And we're not here to really do anything, so when you said that we holding this hearing without any notification, it's really not a hearing on anything. We're just discussing what's going on.
My only point, sir, is that he's not here to discuss his problem.
Well, we're here. We're here today. So you gave him a cease and desist to do any commercial business on that range, correct? Not to shut his business down. He can still sell guns, he can still clean guns, he can still sell ammunition. He can go out and shoot his guns all he wants.
There's been no cease and desist on a business license or the business itself.
Okay, so that comment was wrong. His
Correct.
business is still running.
Active, and there's no order from the Department of Inspection Services relative to the business. The order was drafted to 241 Morrill Street and to the Almstrom Realty Trust, care of Wayne,
Yeah,
on
okay.
that particular parcel only.
Just to not use it commercially.
That's all.
But he can use it recreationally.
Correct.
Because, so again, if I go in and buy the gun, and I buy the ammunition, and I say to Wayne, geez, can I go over and recreate next door at your shop? And he goes, sure, go ahead, it's legal. I can go over there and shoot my brains out,
Correct.
right? No, well, people probably like to have it. But they could do that.
Correct.
Correct. So you didn't cease and desist that?
No.
So I guess,
We have quiet, please.
I guess, in a way, I feel, I told these guys earlier, I feel like I'm at the Salem witch trials here. We have a witch, Wayne, okay, who they consider a witch, if the bad guys want to kill him, and we're gonna decide whether they burn him at the stake, okay? So, from all the information you gave us, okay, and I agree, if he's using the property commercially, he can.
Correct.
Okay, I have no issue with that, because that would be wrong. It's like my business, I can't do certain things because the laws don't allow me to. As long as he's using it for recreational purposes, which would be me buying a gun, and going to recreate over there, what's to stop that? Nothing. He can do that.
Correct.
All day.
Correct.
I can do that.
Yep.
So I don't see that we put him out of business, we've affected him. He just can't charge, and he can't do anything commercially on that shooting range.
Yeah,
And if he does, then
Quiet,
he
please,
does,
please. Can he finish speaking, please? Okay, Chris.
right?
so
So,
that a commercial outfit couldn't operate
a commercial outfit,
on the
on the
property,
property.
conducting business for themselves.
I understand that, and that seems totally fair, okay, because it's in the wrong zone to do that.
Correct.
But he can still run his business the way he's always run it,
I saw no violation.
by doing what he does, and you go and I go and shoot practice, because he lets me. If I ask him, geez, can I go over there and shoot? He goes, sure.
You have the legal consent of the property owner per the laws. that
Right,
we've seen.
yeah, I walk out the door, I walk across the thing, I walk out back, and okay, so I don't see where we've affected him, except can't do anything commercially, because I don't wanna, here's my point in the whole thing, not that anybody probably cares, but he can't do anything illegal, because that's not legal to be illegal, okay? So that's commercial, he can't do any commercial stuff. He continues to operate the way he's operated without, you know, I know maybe this cloverleaf thing is training, I don't know. I don't know how you do that and how that all happens, but you just can't even appear to be doing anything commercial.
Correct.
And there's never been, hopefully, another one of these meetings, because I've been here for 15 years and there's never been one, so.
Okay, man.
Yes, I'm Mary Ellen Davis, and Mr. George, you asked me if I was Mrs. Armstrong, but I thought you just said you walked the land with Mary Ellen.
No, I said that Mr. Alstrom's not here, that his wife
And you
is here.
said, are you his wife? And no, I'm not. his
No, I
wife.
didn't say anything about you.
Excuse me. I find, do you know when we did buy the house?
Ma'am, I'm here to speak for Mr. Alstrom.
Let's not get off the subject.
And I'm
Let's
not
just-
gonna be cross-examined.
Please state the subject
I'm
of what.
just saying that you stated that we bought the house recently. No, we did not buy the house recently, but we, along with the majority of the people who have signed petitions, called the town officials, have lived here even longer than Mr. Armstrong has had that range. So this is nothing new. Also, I would like to set straight, this is not about the Second Amendment. There are people that have signed a petition who carry guns. My husband, who you tend to slander, saying it's a personal issue on his part, grew up
Slander, ma'am.
in Vermont in terms of hunting up there with family. So this is not a gun issue. This is a bylaw issue. This is about a range that was not approved. We have no fault with Mr. Armstrong operating his business. As Mr. Lund stated, it was put forth from the beginning that we have no fault with him operating the business as defined and underneath the bylaws for which he was approved. To sell guns, to repair guns, to sell objects such as the bullets associated with the guns. That's not the concern. The concern is that he's operating a range, and council should know that the definition of commercial is not to be left to Mr. Lund. That puts him in a very awkward position to define commercial. Legislature defines commercial, and that you do not have to charge money to be shooting, to be defined as commercial. You pay to go to the golf range. You pay to go to the golf range, and you don't pay for everything that you do there, and yet it is a commercial venture. Also, I would like to say, excuse me, yes, and he is operating a commercial venture. Also,
Now, can we just, do you have something that you'd like to state?
yes, that there has been no revocation of license, as the woman at the back mentioned, that he has not had his license revoked, to my knowledge. I don't know.
Ms. McCormick made that clear. We realize that he has not had his license revoked.
There's been no revocation of the license there. So my understanding then is that it was issued by Mr. Lund after consulting with council, after receiving information from Mr. Angelini. Mr. Angelini represents a large group of people, and that this is a commercial venture. You do not have to actually pay every time you go to the range. That's not the definition of a commercial venture. In terms of background noise, Mr. George spoke to the highway. I asked, have you ever received any complaints from the people who spoke up about upholding the bylaw about background noise from the highway? No, that's background noise. This is episodic
It's all
noise.
Wayne's background noise.
It's episodic.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, anything you have to address, please address to the chairman, and if you just want to finish up so we can have other people talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a whole different kind of noise, but the bottom line is we're not arguing against the Second Amendment. I recognize, I appreciate the fact that so many bold members have come. I know on the website, people were coming up from New Hampshire, coming from across Massachusetts to support the Second Amendment. And this is not what this is about tonight. This is not about the Second Amendment. This is about a bylaw of the town. And so we are tax-paying people, all of us, regardless of whether we have done permits.
Sir, please.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Sam Will, 22 Townsend. I'm a bit confused why we've wasted so much of my taxpayer license. I just moved here last year. My taxes are pretty expensive. On this, when we've already kind of established with Mr. McCormick and the building inspector that we can go to Wayne's, I can take my personal guns, my personal ammo, or I can buy it there and use it, and it's completely legal. I'm confused on why all of a sudden, if he's been operating, I've been here 13 years since I got out of the military, and we met him shortly thereafter. Either you guys don't do your job as the building inspectors and everything else to find out that people are operating an operation like this, or he's doing nothing wrong. But either way, I see we're spending a lot of money and time
on something that's not illegal, something that's not against the bylaw, and something that somebody has a vendetta against somebody, it seems like. So my question is, what are we gonna do to stop this tonight and move on to make our city better?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the state law,
Everybody, please be quiet.
the state law says that when a complaint has been lodged, and we have had complaints lodged, the building inspector is lawfully obliged to respond to that within a 10-day period of time. So is complaints come in, he's got a lawful obligation to do that, okay? And we represent, all of the interests of all of the parties in the town, okay? Both sides of this particular issue. So I think the record will show that he's been fairly diligent in his pursuit of answers on the complaints. The original complainants weren't always, haven't been fully satisfied with the answers that they get from us. They've conducted some of their own research. We've drilled down ourselves, a little bit further. This is an issue that, I predict isn't going to be resolved here, in a town hall. It's going to be resolved someplace else, adjudicated someplace else. I mean, that's my prediction. But we're fulfilling our duties under the law, that when complaints come in, we're responding to them. The complainants sought an audience with the Board of Selectmen because they were unsatisfied either with the answers or a perceived lack of diligence on our part. So that's why they're here. There's no formal, public hearing on this matter. This is the third time in 6 weeks. It's been, the meetings have been written up in the newspaper, and so there was an awareness out there in the community that this was an ongoing issue. So this is, as I say, the third meeting in 6 weeks. People seem to be getting their facts, their fact books more complete and sharpening up their arguments for what I suspect is going to be the ultimate, someone will seek adjudication of this thing one way or the other. But we're doing our jobs. I resent, the implication that, that we're not, and that we're wasting people's time on this. This is important stuff on a whole lot of levels, and we all know it. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Julie Armstrong, I'm from Auburn, but Uncle Wayne is my uncle. I just have one question, because we've been talking, going back and forth, that we can't use it for commercial use. So tomorrow, if I want to go to Uncle Wayne's and bring my pistol, I can go out and shoot?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
My name
Okay,
is Peter Chalapatis, from the town of Westminster. Wayne's a personal friend of mine. I bought a rifle from Wayne last week, and I'm planning on going up there to shoot it next week with his permission to use recreationally. Am I gonna have a problem with the cease and desist order? I don't want Wayne to get in trouble.
No.
So if Wayne says, go ahead, go back and shoot?
The issue more revolved around the fact that commercial classes were being held on the range.
Safety.
Regardless of the content of the class, as soon as a commercial entity like Locally Firearms Group gets paid to conduct a class, and that paid class is being held on private land, it goes in violation of that zoning ordinance, and that's where the large issue is.
But it was in the gun room, not in the.
This is going nowhere.
Excuse me. Okay, Chris.
I didn't know, what was it?
My question was, buy a gun from Wayne's. I don't want to get him in trouble if he has a cease and desist order, but if Wayne says to me, like he says to all the other customers, go ahead and use the range, he's not going to get in trouble, am I correct?
The order is against the outdoor commercial recreational use in a single residence district. That's all I spoke to.
So I'm all set.
As long as the property owner gives consent to a person shooting on the range, the laws that I've read, and I'm getting away from,
Right.
I'm zoning.
Stop right there. Save yourself,
Just
Chris.
take 2 more questions from the back, then we
One
can, let's go on
Chairman.
further. Excuse me. Go ahead.
The selectman on the end, I got new glasses, so I can't see your name, but the one who wanted to shoot himself.
Don't do that.
Happens more often than not.
Just so you know, nobody that I'm aware drives past Wayne's house and goes to the range without checking in with his wife or Wayne or one of the daughters. There's a sign on the gate, I don't know if any of you guys been up there, but there's a sign on the gate, you have to check in prior to going to the range, so you get permission. Just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, one more question from the back. That's it.
George Bellotta. Actually, it's a two-part thing. I would like to ask council a question, clarifying question. Because the late...
Would you, for camera purposes and sound, please? Thank you.
Of course. This come up this evening, because the rifle range is on the trust property. Who owns the land?
The trust is a lawful entity.
Okay, so if the trust is the lawful entity, there is no physical owner. So what I'm getting at,
Trustees.
there's
There are
trustees.
and
So the trustees,
my understanding is that Mr. Alstrom is named as a trustee.
correct. Yes. Okay. So we would just. I'm from the side that is extremely bothered by the noise. And I live 1.1 to 1.3 miles from the rifle range. And there are times when the noise has been so intense that conversations would have to stop. We've had friends who...
Please, no comment.
I live across the street. My experience, okay?
Everybody-
Just giving you my experience.
We gave you your turn to talk, let him talk, please.
I had an opportunity to speak to, or to communicate with our council, and we would represent the opposite point of view in terms of commercialization. That allowing, just give council this, one to you, and I don't have one for everyone since you're the chair. That shooting in general on the range is commercialization and it's a zoning violation. When a person discharges a gun on the Armstrong Realty Trust property, and particularly in reference to using the existing gun range, that this action constitutes a commercial recreational use, whether there's money exchanged or not. Commercial does not have to include money exchange. The discharge of a gun on the Armstrong Realty Trust property, particularly in reference to using its existing gun range, is a violation under the West Boylston zoning bylaws, section 3.2C. That is, commercial recreational use is not permitted in a single residential area. So we would say that it's the opposite of council for Wayne offers, in that it's a violation of zoning. And so we just, and this has never been there are many people in our group, and there are more than 50 people involved. And never once have we talked about, are there any desire for Wayne to lose his business of repairing armaments, of selling guns, and miscellaneous. This is a zoning violation we bought in the area 15 years ago. We never heard the noise, really. There was a little pop every now and then. 5 years ago, it started to get louder, more frequent, louder and more frequent, louder and more frequent. And why? I don't know. I assume it's because there are more people using it and that guns and other things have gotten louder and bigger, etc. But it's a zoning issue, and it's very clear in West Boylston zoning law that this is a part of commercialization. And if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and sounds like a duck, it's a duck.
How's it commercial?
That I'm not competent to talk about. I will leave that to the attorneys. Thank you.
Caroline, do you have anything to say about that?
Thank you. I would like to respond to a couple of things. With respect to the building, I should back up. The building inspector and I actually had an opportunity prior to tonight's meeting to go up there and view the site, and actually met with Attorney George and Mrs. Almstrom and two of Wayne's children, and we thank them for the courtesy of being able to go up there and get the lay of the land quite literally and what the abutting properties are. One of the things that I learned tonight was a statement made, and it was reiterated here by Attorney George, that there's a claim being made that the range was in operation prior to the adoption of the zoning bylaw. And you heard the building inspector say tonight that 1990 is when the zoning bylaw on this commercial recreational use came into being or appeared in the zoning bylaw. Unfortunately, the building inspector doesn't have any history or a file that he could refer to of when the firing range began to be used, because it's not something you go and get a building permit for or something of that nature. So if there is evidence to be made that this has been used, even in a commercial nature, prior to the adoption of the zoning bylaw in 1990, there's an argument to be made that the commercial use of the range is a pre-existing non-conforming use under the Zoning Act. There are also provisions that speak to when a pre-existing non-conforming use is altered or may be intensified in a certain way that it has lost its prior non-conforming nature and character. All of that is something that's very fact-specific and that would actually require affidavits and testimony of people who can say, I shot on that range in 1972 or 1968 or whatever it is. And I don't want to suggest that the Board of Selectmen is the place for that to happen. What we're hearing tonight is it's a zoning issue. Well, if it's a zoning issue, if it's a request for zoning enforcement, there's a mechanism for the neighbors to pursue. They can seek zoning enforcement action of the building inspector. In a sense, they already have by their letter from Attorney Angelini arguing about the home occupation and being in violation of the bylaw, but they can also request further zoning enforcement action or zoning interpretation from the building inspector. The building inspector then responds to that. I suggest to you that there will be someone who's happy with that response and someone who's not happy with that response. Whoever is not happy with that response can appeal the building inspector's determination to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And whoever is not happy with the Zoning Board of Appeals' decision can take that to court. But with all due respect to the selectmen, who I understand want to be responsive to constituents and constituent complaints, there isn't a mechanism for the Board of Selectmen to take any action relative to this particular site. If it's being styled as a zoning violation or a potential zoning violation, then it should go through the building inspector and the Zoning Board of Appeals for their determination.
Thank you.
We've been hearing a lot of things about whether it's commercial, whether it's not commercial. We're not going to decide that now. But from what I'm hearing, my interpretation of this cease order is strictly for commercial things, such as the Cloverleaf Firearms Group. Anybody that buys, or any individual that goes to the gun shop, buys guns, buys ammos, has the right, with Wayne's permission, under this order, to shoot on that land. Is that correct?
It's my understanding as well.
Counsel, is that your understanding too? So tomorrow, 200 people could be lined up at that front door, ready to buy bullets and go shoot on that range, under the law. So we could, that could start from noon tomorrow till 5 tomorrow night, constant shooting, and there's nothing the town or the zoning enforcement officer can do.
If folks are lawful guests of the property owner, using the property with the property owner's permission to be there, then yes. they
So
can
if there wasn't a business in the front, could the same thing happen?
Yes.
So if you didn't, I'm sorry.
But because, I mean, I don't know, I think it's just a fine line. Maybe he's selling that gun, everybody goes there because they know they can shoot. So without shooting, maybe less people would buy guns there. I'm not saying that's the case, but could there be an argument that the range is part of the business and you are paying to go onto that range?
There absolutely could be an argument, and going back to my comments earlier, there could be an argument made that there is a commercial component to the use of the range, because short of taking some sort of a survey of people leaving the property and asking, did you just use it recreationally? Are you a friend of the owners? Or did you actually purchase something while you were there? Did you use the range just to test it out? So is the range more of a convenience to you that somehow or other accompanied the sale of the ammunition or the sale of the firearm? There's an argument to be made. It could be commercial. There's an argument to be made. It is not. And when I said earlier that it rests with the zoning enforcement officer, it does. This is not what I consider to be a commercial use, any more so than is what anyone else in this room considers to be a commercial use. The zoning bylaw puts the interpretation and the enforcement of the bylaw squarely on the shoulders of the building inspector, that if he thinks something is more of a commercial nature and based on some sort of information that he would have to have and evaluate to make that, it would be up to him to make that determination.
Can I respond to that?
No.
One second, please.
I have a question, you pointed to me?
No.
No.
The lawyer.
Me, no.
Carol.
So, but hasn't the building inspector already made his determination? I mean, why would, if somebody complained to him tomorrow that it's a zoning thing, is he gonna write back to him the same thing he already wrote? That you can't use it commercially, but you can use it for recreation. Like he said, I can go buy a gun, and he wouldn't see a problem with me going next door to shoot on the range. So what more? I mean, people have asked, you know, what they spending their taxpayers' money. We're spending an inordinate amount of money to handle what some people say is a zoning issue. Boy, I'll tell you, there's many other zoning issues probably in this town that are a lot worse than this, but they don't make noise, so no one cares. So, you know, whether they go, oh, it's only zoning, it's not noise. No, it's noise. I couldn't agree more that it's just because of the noise.
Well, I think,
So, I mean, I don't want to spend any more money, nothing against you. We spend enough money on a lot of things. And to me, it should be, I mean, until you just said that we have no right. I was going to make a motion that the cease and desist order remains for any extraordinary commercial use. So he can't use it for commercial use. And that Wayne's weaponry be allowed to continue to operate and use the range for recreational use.
Mr. Chairman, you have no standing to make a
We're not,
motion.
But we can't do that.
do that now.
all this is
Because it's
an
not our choice.
update on Wayne's weapon
can
trade.
I just say that I think we should just take the advice of council and let the building inspector deal with the zoning enforcement issue
We'll
of
be
it.
here
No.
again.
And-
We're not coming back here again.
No, you're not gonna come in front of us again.
End of story, we're moving on.
Can I just respond to?
No,
No.
we have two more questions, go ahead, you have one.
Clarification that if you're trying to discern whether it's commercial or not, By default, if it's not commercial, is it private use? Same thing also. By default, if it's not commercial, is it private use, and then are they subject to the same laws any private citizen would be?
Yes, but again, that's going to be a
That's all.
determination for the building
Thank you.
inspector as to whether it's recreational.
That's it.
I'm Jim Sweeney from Spencer. I used to live on Webster Lake, and they had bands out there. I don't know if you remember when Waterfront Mary's put out her dock. I think you guys need, if everyone's complaining it's noise, it's like they did out in Webster Lake. They put the decimal sound things out there to pick up the sound. There is a limit to your noise. Let's see if it's at their limit that they're saying.
Thank you.
I live less than a quarter mile from Lester Pistol Range. I hear it more in the fall than I do this time of year. So I think you guys need to get the noise level found out on it, so then you can see if it's legit.
Thank you, sir. So,
I would just like to say, I think the building inspector is doing what he's supposed to do, is doing his job.
Yeah.
I don't believe we have tons of zoning violations in town like might have been mentioned. I think the zoning enforcement officer is doing his job, and, I mean, that's what he's paid to do, so he's not getting extra to be here tonight. So I think he's doing what I'm sure he loves to be here tonight.
all right, I want to thank everybody for coming, and hopefully,
No.
you got one more thing to say?
I just have three quick things to say. First of all, as Wayne's counsel, although there's been commentary that it's the waste of the town's money in addressing, I don't know, the gentleman in the white shirt and the handsome tie. But at this point, we don't, as his counsel, speaking for him, take at all the position it's a waste of money. I think that Carolyn, attorney for the town, has spelled out the procedures and the way the procedures work. I think this gentleman spelled out the reason, sir, I don't know your name, why we're all here. And I think Carolyn has roadmap to where it goes if it's not settled. Second thing I would like to say, okay, because you spent a lot of time on this. When you say, well, you know, I make an accusation in that I say, and I'm saying about the Second Amendment, there's a property issue, not a Second Amendment issue. Okay, when I say that there is something beyond the noise issue, I am aware that there were tremendous efforts made by the zoning enforcement officer to try to reach a settlement, okay? I'm aware of that, and I'm told, okay, by my client that that was shut down by the people who are objecting.
Right.
And what happens when you say, we're not gonna talk about settlement, is frankly, we're gonna spend a whole lot more money than we're spending here.
Thank you, sir.
And somebody's gonna be very unhappy.
Okay, so with the selectmen are through with this subject, and with the building inspector, who's a zoning enforcement officer, will handle any complaints on this from now on. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think the closing thing may be to discuss the protocol that had been proposed at the last discussion. If I may impose on Mr. London, Chief Minich, on what the suggested protocol is going to be from now on.
Yeah, so.
For complaints.
If complaints come in regarding the commercial use and that there's a lot of people on the range, I'm 32 hours a week, and it's just me, so I don't have the resources in my department to go observe these complaints. So the police chief and I worked out what we thought was the best policy, which is to have the complaints filed to the police department so that they're able to log those complaints. And if there's an excessive level determined, that's when the police chief himself, if I'm not mistaken, would go investigate the department.
I'm not even here for 32 hours, so. No, it's a basic issue. We're not going to send police officers up to Wayne's every time someone's shooting and enters property, infringe on his rights. We're going to do things the way we've always done things, and that's the protocol.
Okay.
It's you know, I'm not. That's what we're going to do.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, really appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
I'm gonna stick around for the rest of the meeting? Hey, the meeting's not over.
Okay, we don't want any
Well, I didn't want everybody to think we have.
Do we have the appointment papers in front of them for the interim DPW position?
They don't sign appointment papers, they comply with the,
Can everybody please leave, and we can finish our meeting, please? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's no meeting going on. Please keep it down or exit the room.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you said it.
Get the National Guard over here.
Does he think he's at, oh, he
Okay,
must be in the
General.
army.
Len Parker. Because he gave it me earlier.
And we have the ad prepared, ready to go, Glenn Parker.
Make a motion to approve.
Well, can we go back so the people can hear it instead of a discussion with the chairman?
This is the biggest mistake.
Thank you, Chris, that was fun.
You wait and see. Yeah, nice going. What do you got in that
Chris,
backpack?
nice,
What's in there?
good job.
An AK.
It's got 3 guns in there.
Nice job.
Police chief still in there? Lock me out.
Not only have.
No.
He's only kidding. Don't know what it's in his backpack.
Yeah. It's sticking out right there.
All right, let me,
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Board of Health, I know listens on this one.
Never wasted too much time in my life.
concurrence on the following interim appointments for the Department of Public Works.
You go with that, okay, thank you.
Interim Director Mike Kittredge, Interim Foreman Paul Osberg, Interim Equipment Operator Skilled Laborer Glenn Parker.
Motion approved.
I'll second.
Second, now, is there any timeframes on these, or they're just open-ended until we hire?
The, Mr. Kittredge's has a 90-day, 90 days in the town has the unilateral right to extend or even reduce, that 90-day period. So it's pretty flexible.
And the other two, the same situation?
The other two are the same situation, yes. Well, actually, yes.
So if it goes, if we hire a new person in 60 days, does the 90 days end, or is it automatically 90 days?
Again, we have the unilateral right to even shorten that 90-day period of time. Mr. Chairman, I was going to mention this under my town administrator's report, but I have agreed to the parameters of a DPW department study with Mark Morse of the MMA Consulting Group. MM means Mark Morse, not the Mass Municipal Association. Mark has done work in the past for the town. I'm told he did a fairly detailed water and sewer study some years ago, and also did the study that I think kept the ball rolling on the transformation of the fire department administration from a board of fire engineers to where you are now. So he has past experience with the town. He and I have had, a couple of very long conversations. He gets what the focus is on the study. I mean, you've got the baseline things like, are you properly equipped? Do you have manpower? Are your supply lines open? Taz, now I know why they call you Taz. We can't hear over you.
Can't close the door.
Yeah.
We spoke at our last meeting that, before you go about recruiting a permanent DPW superintendent, I think you want to sequence things, get the study done. I think we can do it on a fairly timely basis. Mr. Morse's contract proposal will be before you at your next meeting, but I can tell you that, besides all the operational things that he'd touch on, what direction do you want the department to go in from here on out? And, then what would be your ideal candidate profile for that? Then you go about the business of advertising and filling the spot. I think we've got about 150 days or so, or between now and the end of the calendar year, about 130 days. I see all of this being achievable, by the end of the calendar year, probably sooner. So when you look at the length of appointment on the interim superintendent, I think you need at least 90 days because he actually started it on July 20th, the official separation date on the prior person. So he's close to 30 days into it now. That gives 60 days out beyond this. And by the end of that period of time, I expect you'll have the study in hand, and the town can decide whether or not to extend that appointment, terminate it then, or whatever. But I can tell you, there's a sense of purpose there. Mike is serious about this position right now. He understands that according to the town bylaws, your town bylaws say DPW superintendent has to have an engineering background. So he's very clear on whether or not he'll be your permanent person. But he's spoken to me on a number of occasions, echoing what you and I said on the morning of July 9th, Mr. Chairman, that the DPW, they want to be held in some esteem. They want to show that, that that they can be part of the improvement in that department. And whether Mike has a future as a superintendent or not, he has a serious need or feels a serious need to present the men and women of the department as functional folks, because they want to attract good candidates for the time, when you advertise the DPW position. He's told me anyone who pays attention has seen the turnover, in that position over the years. We've had a lot of DPW superintendents. He wants to make sure that that we present ourselves, as well as we possibly can to would-be candidates. He's highly motivated, energetic. We've surrounded him with a lot of help. We're trying to make him successful, during this interim stint. On the matter of the interim foreman, he and I drew up a series of 16 questions that, we interviewed 3 candidates on. We did a rating. We did independent ratings. Then we came together. Mrs. Lucia, was a witness to the interviews and the tally processes and the like, and we came to the conclusion that Mr. Osterberg was the most qualified of the 3 parties, and hence, if you approved my appointment tonight, he would be vacating the equipment operator / skilled laborer position, and that's the one that we want to move Mr. Parker up into. He was the only applicant for that, on the internal posting. So if you approve all 3, Mr. Chairman, the ad hits the street tomorrow to backfill Mr. Glenn Parker's seasonal parks position. So we're putting all the bodies in place. If I'd been clear that even, even temporary or interim appointments, had to come, that I have the authority to make, but require presentation to this board, I'd have brought at least Mr. Kittredge's up, a whole lot sooner. But I became aware in the last, week or 10 days or so that I had to bring him here. So that's why you've got all three.
Are the, interim director, is that within the salary bylaw? Does that, I'm assuming there's a bump for Mr. Kittredge, Mr. Osterberg, and Mr. Parker are going to move into a new pay grade on that?
Yeah. The bump in the interim director's position is just a little past the midpoint between the former superintendent's salary and or hourly wage and what his wage was is the foreman, just a little bit north of the midpoint, on that delta. In the interim foreman, any one of the three candidates, they're all in step 5 on the pay grade. They get paid the same hourly rate. They vault. It's arguable whether they vault up to the foreman step 4 or step 5. The difference between the two, frankly, is I'm not really anxious to argue about the Local 170 has been, particularly helpful. There's a period of goodwill going on here, is evidenced by, quick labor negotiations on the successor contract. I don't want to poke a stick in anyone's eye over $1 an hour.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question.
Yeah.
What happened, you said you're going to go out and post position.
Advertise, yeah.
Right, and you said the seasonal person.
Yep.
All right, so when is the seasonal person, is that time frame due to end soon? So I'm
That's a good
wondering-
question. I'm learning that. Mr.
If that's
Crowley talked about,
seasonal-
and I talked about that.
Right, and then what happens if, does that mean then Mr. Parker, if he doesn't stay on as the equipment operator, he does not have a job? Is that my understanding,
Right.
or?
He
how
took a
much-
seasonal job.
Yeah, so how much longer is the seasonal position? Are we going to advertise for a seasonal position that's only going to be out there a month? Or how long is that going to be?
That's possible. My understanding of the custom is that there's not a hard and fast date that's set, that this seasonal employment ends on December 1st or something like that. Okay. We do know we've got the fall soccer and football seasons coming up. There'll be work, there'll be work well into those seasons, and there'll be, leaf blowing and there'll be enough there. Once the snow hits the ground, I guess.
Okay, I just want to make sure
It
the
ends.
fields are going to be all set for fall
Yeah.
with all of this going on. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you did express a concern to me earlier this week, and I was, you said a name, and I said, oh, no, I'm sure,
Okay,
I was sure that name wasn't going to drop from the roster, but
okay, thank you.
So any other discussion on that? Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bob, want to come up?
Good evening.
Bob?
How we doing? I sent a memo to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Health is in the process of separating from the Worcester Alliance, which was a configuration of 5 or 6 communities together. We feel that on May 26th, the Alliance sent us a letter increasing the fee of approximately 55%. And we feel that, that we can provide the same service to the town at a reduced rate. And also give us more local control over our own board. So before you, I've outlined a little plan, and that is that there's a couple of steps that we must go through to have a successful Board of Health. And the first one, of course, is that we need to continue our relationship with the Alliance through November 31st. And the reason we have to do that is because we have to hire and also give ourselves some time to sort of reorganize that position. We have to advertise for a position and go forward on that basis. So for 3 months, we're going to have to experience an increased fee from the Alliance, which is the fee. We've successfully negotiated, a two-month stay, which saved the town some funds. So therefore, according to the memo, we're going to have full service through November 31st from the Alliance. After that, effective December 1st, we're going to have sort of partial service from the Alliance. And the Alliance will take care of housing complaints, restaurant inspections, and that. We want to maintain our own person here. And as I outlined in the memo, going forward, there'll be increased expense for probably the first 3 months of this separation. But overall, I think that after that period, we could save approximately $7,000 a year for the town operating the Board of Health.
I did read your email, had a couple of questions. When you said we were going to be hiring, I think you said 25 hours a week. Why 25? And I'm looking to find out what the impact is to the town. Does that mean now we're going to have somebody else on insurance? And why the 25 hours? And I want to know down the road what that's going to cost us.
Okay. Well, the reason it's 25 hours is because the Board of Health's position has always been 25 hours. We've always worked from 7:30 to 12:30, and it's been a part-time position.
Okay.
What it's going to cost us down the road is, presently we're paying the Alliance about $22 an hour for that person that sits in that seat. But with a new hire at a grade 4, I'm looking at probably $15.23. So there'll be some savings there. We want to keep the same job description because we hope to grow whoever gets that position into the job. That is that we do want the person to be capable of doing some inspections and helping out with routine matters at the Board of Health. It's a pretty complex job because under the and as you heard earlier today about noise and such, we deal with all those complaints as well. So we need to keep our association with the Alliance to use their expertise because they have that whole bureaucracy in there, and they're also able to communicate to us news, regulations, mandates, and those types of issues that we wouldn't necessarily be aware of because we have a part-time position. So that's our position.
And it's your belief in Board of Health, please, that it's the best for the town to go back to using something just for the town itself, not in the future?
Well, from an economic point of view, it is, and also, I believe that if the Board of Health has the person actually working for them as opposed to the city of Worcester, I think it's better for the town.
So when we went 3 years ago, did we only go because of money?
No, we didn't only go because of money.
Okay, but we're coming back now, basically.
Not entirely because of money, but let me say that we are still going to be part of the Alliance, but at a reduced rate, at a reduced participation. That is, the administrative portion of the job is going to be funded by the town through our own receipts. But we'll still have an alliance. We'll still participate in the alliance, so that we're going to be in the best of both worlds.
So the $7,000 savings after a year, maybe 2 years, that's going to be gone because we're going to give that person. We're going to have to pay that person more money if we're going to expect them to do everything that the last person did at $7 or $8 more an hour.
No, to the point, yes, that might be true, but don't forget that if we stayed with the Alliance, that they're gonna keep increasing their fees as well. We would have more control over that, our destiny by having our own person there and how much we wanna pay the person, as opposed to letting, the city of Worcester determine how much we should pay for that person sitting in that seat.
So the $7,000 savings includes the fee we're paying for the Alliance, includes the 25 hours
Right.
at that step, but it doesn't include if the step goes up.
Well,
One or
it
two
doesn't,
steps.
but don't forget the Alliance would also increase their fees.
3 years, we usually go into a 3-year contract, or we
We
increase?
go into a 3-year contract, although we've been only doing 1 year. But don't forget, they turned around and increased their fee from like $2,700 to $4,200 on less than a 30-day notice. But in part two, you've got to understand that we were the only town that participated that only has one person in their Board of Health office. So the model wasn't really working for them or for us.
Okay.
So for them to absorb our personnel, they had to increase their costs to the town, but controlling our own, wage, we'll be able to, have more local control, so.
Do you feel that during the past years that we were with the city, that we got better service overall? Or could we have just stayed? Do you feel?
Well, I feel that it's beneficial to stay with the Alliance in a limited capacity, yeah, because there clearly is benefits to that. We get more information and expert information, and when we need it, particularly with housing complaints or in those natures, they have experts there, and they're good, and also helps us because it puts a disinterested pair of eyes on a problem. That there's not a person that's employed by the town may have a different relationship. It's difficult to be the police officer in the town you live, so to speak, as opposed to having an outside source look at this independently and making a determination on maybe a housing complaint or a food inspection.
And the person that's in the city now that was working for West Boylston, Barbara, is she staying in the city after this?
No, she, effectively, she'll be retiring in November, so it makes a nice, clean change. That's the plan. She says she's going to retire.
So in November, you will be hiring someone to replace her,
No, actually in October.
October. So
Because
she
we
comes
want-
back to being a town employee at that point?
No, she's going to retire from the city of Worcester.
And that has no impact on our insurance or
She's a city of Worcester
any?
employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the $7,000 savings that you calculated, are you taking into account just the 15 whatever an hour, or are you taking into account the benefits package that doesn't come out of the Board of Health budget? It comes out of a different line item?
You're right, Pat. I'm only calculating the fee.
Okay, so in essence,
$15, right.
Well, not-
Because I know it comes from a separate.
well, not necessarily a wash. It's not really a $7,000 savings. It's really, this is an issue of whether or not we want the local control of the person at this point.
Well, there is some savings there.
Out of your budget, but out of the overall big picture, yes, a 25-hour employee, you put health insurance on that person, it might
7,000's washed away.
right, the 7,000 could go away. So
But looking back and staying in the Alliance, I'm saving.
I understand completely, but it wrapped my mind around it. It's not really a money decision. It's do we want the local control of this person and have somebody that works for the town versus have to go to Worcester for everything, and we're just a little teeny piece that they don't care about.
That's
To me, that's more the issue than the money issue.
well, for me, it's both, but okay. Yeah.
Anything?
No, I think it's a great idea. I've voted against this alliance since you went into it, so
Well,
I think we
would
should.
someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Oh, you got a question in the
I'm
audience.
sorry.
How much money will we still pay for the alliance? How much part,
Oh,
percentage wise?
well, after we fully separate, it's gonna be about $1,500 a month.
We are paid still 1,500?
Yes.
How much now we are paying?
Right now, we're paying $2,700. And for 3 months, because I wasn't able to negotiate, we're gonna pay the increased fee of $4,200.
All right,
Let me make a motion.
we have a motion, we have a
A
second.
second.
Oh, yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you for your work.
All right. Jim's, we have the administrators report. Jim, town administrators report. You still out there?
It's gone.
Yeah,
See?
It's gone for the day.
pretty honest.
Go this stuff.
All right.
Go this stuff.
Well, the only thing we,
Do you want me to go
is
get it?
gone?
Do you want me to go get it?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go with other stuff first. Selectmen's report.
I have nothing at this time.
No, that's a future agenda item.
Yeah, I do. I had an occasion to go to the presentation by the, I don't know if it was the DCR in regards to the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Myself and Representative O'Day were there, and Representative O'Day asked the question, and we had a chance after the meeting to talk about it, about maintenance of these sidewalks when they're done. And we had an occasion to talk to the DOT representative, and he said he was gonna look into that for us. Because they had some issues with sidewalks, with grass, and Representative O'Day said, you know, that's gonna be a maintenance nightmare. So maybe if it's sidewalk all the way up to the street. So we had a discussion after, and the DOT did say that they were gonna look into it and get back to us. So I can reach out to Representative O'Day when he hears from them. And I do have the slide presentation was sent to Nancy, if anybody wants to see it, in regards to the sidewalks. And I also have handouts in my box, if anybody wants them. And the other report is, I see it's on the agenda for meetings and invitation. The Parks facility is having a presentation for the Good Deal Park Master Plan, and this board is, is invited to come. I don't know if we would need to post it. I think that would be up to Nancy, if that's the case. It's 9/8 at 7 o'clock. All are welcome to come to this presentation. There's going to be department heads from the town with any questions and issues in regards to the project. And that's 9/8 at 7 o'clock here. So again, if it needs to be posted, I would leave that to the town administrator, Nancy, if more than 3 members. I know 2 members are on the committee, so I don't know what the situation is there.
Okay.
It's always safer to do it than not.
Only thing I have is I've been here for the last 2 meetings. I know a few people were wondering where I was. I had vacations planned prior to getting elected, so I'll be here on a regular basis from this point forward.
That's what they all say.
What do you say?
You weren't here?
The meeting invitation and announcements, September 8th, 7 o'clock, as Mr. Wicker just said, Parks Facility Committee meeting here at 7 o'clock. And, interim administrator's report. You want to talk about?
Just another couple of things, Mr. Chairman. The transition from Mr. Heaton to Community Opportunities Group for Affordable Housing Consulting Services is complete. My exit interview with Mr. Heaton went very well. He brought all our materials in. He had a lot of paper files, and he had all of that on a thumb drive. So we're making the thumb drive available to the new consulting group, and we'll be retaining the paper files here. Mr. Heaton was very grateful to have had the opportunity to serve the town. it was getting to, it's 72 years old, and with children and grandchildren in Michigan and Colorado, he figured it was about time to take a little bit of stress out of his life. And so I told Pat Halpin on the phone, I think it was this morning, that when he left here last Friday, I think it was a Thursday or Friday, it was a gorgeous day. He had the top down on his Volkswagen convertible. He didn't have West Boylston and Oakdale and things like that to worry about, and he had a paycheck in his pocket. So it was a good day for Mr. Heaton. Our new COG group members, or one of the principals has met with Pat Halpin. I know you meet tomorrow night, Mr. Chairman, the Affordable Housing Trust. So Pat Halpin said to me on the phone this morning, you know, sometimes things happen for a reason and things look good. Okay, so public safety building window project. Just an update on what I told you at your last meeting. I thought we were going to have to do asbestos abatement in as one contract with two component parts for friable stuff and for window caulking, because we up to that point, we hadn't found a window manufacturer and installer that would actually do asbestos abatement. It's very common for caulking, you know, to have that content. But indeed, modern manufacturing, the low proposal on that does indeed have a team, you know, that will come in, you know, sanitize that, you know, certify it before the window installers come in. So we're very, very close to making that contract award. I have made contact with the Community and Government Relations Department at Holy Cross College per your request. We've got a couple possible meeting dates, either next Tuesday or next Wednesday, whatever, you know, between 10 and 2, whatever seems to work, to at least kick off discussions about Holy Cross's project in town, you know, what the possible impact on town services would be, what some of the parameters might be for pilot or other discussions, and I think as much as anything else to funnel suggestions and requests through the office of the Selectmen instead of you know, the college getting multiple, you know, requests from multiple people. I think I think if there's going to be any consideration at all, you know, it needs to be a more coordinated effort, and, you know, through your office. I think that's, you know, that's one of the objectives. So that'll be next week, and I think. Last Friday we had what we call DPW Day. We had Ken Hodgson from LEI Engineering. Nancy put on this big wide-brimmed hat and big glasses. You know, looked like she was running from the paparazzi. But Mike Kittredge and, you know, and others, we went out looking at Malden Street. We were looking at the Mass Works sidewalk proposals and, you know, marking up those plans, looking at drainage projects on Henry Street and Newton and, you know, Worcester Street, et cetera, just getting the just getting all the component, all the projects, you know, trying to get them all queued up and see what we can get going for the for this construction season in particular. At the last meeting, you gave me authority to execute a consulting contract with LEI for the Malden Street project. That's been done. You're going to see trucks out there sometime soon doing test borings there and on Crescent up to, what's Pine what road?
Pine.
Okay. So you'll see that work. Nancy had suggested that we send out notices to all the residents along those streets. We do have the abutters list already in hand. Once we get an idea of what activities are going to happen when, we'll send out letters to the abutters up there and tell them what's going on.
Are we doing Crescent Street and Malden Street?
From Pine Island to Walden Street. That's where they stop when they do the sewage.
Well, I know, but I've never heard about any Crescent
Um,
Street.
We got the
It's only
pa-
Malden Street, Malden
Yeah.
Street, Malden Street.
We got the pavement management report. Remember I answered a question, a woman in the audience at the last meeting, Mr. McCormick, asked what was,
Gonna happen.
what, if anything, was going to happen. The pavement management report that you commissioned by Faye Spofford and Thorndike did a good job of laying out segments of roadways and, you know, evaluating their conditions and the like. When you look at the classifications up there, it should be no surprise to you, you're in danger of losing that section of Malden from Goodale to a section with Crescent. I'm sorry, Malden from Goodale, to its intersection with Crescent Street, if you don't get something done. That's a total reconstruction that's going to be needed. If you've looked at Crescent Street going back to Pine Adler,
Pine
Arden, I got to get this.
To say that one.
I've got a mental block. Okay, back to there. That's total reclamation. Okay, that's different. That's
Right.
just a little bit better than total reconstruction. The traffic counts, at least, is, I haven't read the data, but it suggests that drop-offs for recreational purposes, school purposes, and things like that, there was, a lot of travel, from Goodale to Malden to Crescent for a drop-off or, in the opposite direction. Certainly that, and those are through streets up to that point, and you get more bang for your buck. Those two things are also in the worst condition. When you look at Malden Street from its intersection with Crescent all the way up to its end, the classification suggests primarily just a 2-inch overlay. Now, there is some drainage things that have to be done minor that even our department is capable of doing. And you might have to saw cut out, a couple of sections to go further, but that's primarily just a 2-inch overlay, okay? Remember 2 meetings ago, I asked you if you had any visions of widening any of that stuff, because that was going to affect the scope of the LEI contract and hence, the construction services themselves. And so we were clear on that, and then we followed through with the contract. And at about the same time, we chased down the, Faye Spofford and Thorndike sent in the draft version of their report, so.
I have no problem,
Yeah,
I
so,
never
but
heard
it is-
about Crescent Street.
Yeah,
We
it-
never
it-
talked about it.
Because everybody drops their kids off.
And then they loop
They do a
around.
little, they
It
come
is
that way.
possible. It is possible. I'm not saying that this is a lock, but that this season, you might look at, that Crescent and Malden, the reconstruction and the reclamation on the other side. Get out of your car, get out of your car on the Crescent Street side in particular. You'll be surprised that's done this season, or at least, get something done this season, and then, a 2-inch overlay on the rest of Malden Street, maybe next year. Maybe we can do it all at once. Maybe we can get nothing done this season. But our objective, frankly, I apologize for my language, but, we're hell-bent on getting something out of the gate here, this construction season there, so.
No, that's fine,
It's kind of where it.
It's just I hadn't heard that,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Anything's possible. That's just me talking, and I told the lady I know
I
just enough to be
understand what
dangerous
you're
on these
saying.
things, so.
Is there a start date for the sidewalks?
I can tell you the completion date is, October of 2016.
So there isn't a start date yet?
I do not know.
Okay. I mean, if you could just, see if there is.
We had the plans out, we were walking various places, marking up.
Yeah.
In fact, they were using some old sewer base maps, for their work, so I'll find out. I wouldn't hold your breath on this. I'm not sure I'd hold your breath on
this year.
on much getting done this year.
Right.
Especially since so much of the area that you're focusing on is in and around the school and the play area. The time to have gotten that done was this summer before school
There was some
starts.
talk about that they would work around the school. I mean, I just don't know yet. So if you can just let us know when
I will.
they're thinking of starting.
I will. So they've got a lot, LEI's got a lot on their plate, and, you know, they've brought some other people in off of other jobs, other offices in Connecticut to, you know, to work for us.
Just a suggestion, I mean, maybe, I think everybody's heard this, except maybe Mr. Crowley, that the people on Malden Street, they want that part from Goodale to Malden, they want that fixed badly, somehow, just a little bit for the winter. I mean, last winter, they were rightfully so, in here complaining about the, you know, the ruts were so bad that you could hardly drive on the street. So
That's true.
if you can do anything to kind of flatten it out a little bit to make it livable, if you're not, I know you're probably not gonna be able to get it done this season, because this
Don't be too
season's
sure about
drawing
that.
to an end pretty quick.
Don't be too sure about that, Mr.
Right.
McCormick. I have every intention of doing that.
If you can get even, dig it up and oil it, it'd be like the old days. It was a good road.
Two reasons, you know, I'm committed to this thing professionally. The second reason is I think Nancy will kick my butt if I don't get.
Yeah, I mean.
She's been very, very resourceful and very helpful in getting piecing component parts of this thing together.
When are we gonna see the report from LEI? You said you have a draft of it? Will it be-
Face Profit and Thorndike.
Oh, okay, that one, sorry.
They were waiting for some answers to
Okay.
put the finishing touches on it from the previous DPW superintendent. So
Okay.
we've got to,
So we'll get it soon.
we got to find out just what it is they were asking us to do, and we'll get the final product. I've got the draft. We would be pleased to give it to you electronically, and
Would you email,
yeah, you bet.
I would like it.
And if you want paper copies, yeah, we'll make that. By all means, we'll do that, sure.
Thank you.
All right, future agenda items, Mr.
No, I have nothing.
Vaughn?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I just, in regards to this pavement management program that we had, I think we bought the program.
So we just thought,
You bought a consulting study for $19,500
Is it-
or something.
Is it still in the works, or is it done?
It's like 95% done.
Okay.
I have the draft report in hand, and that's what I just said, by all means,
Right.
I'll give you that draft.
So we can see kind of how it worked in regards to Malden Street, what they estimated it would cost and what it's actually costing?
Yeah.
So we'll be able to,
It took me deep into my second reading. My first reading, because of the way the thing was formatted, you know, I was going like this. I was, you know, my eyes were getting glassy and stuff. But when I finally understood how the thing laid out,
right,
it makes a lot of sense. Its value isn't in the,
cost.
you know, the level of detail on how they rated these things. You know, they didn't do borings all over the place. But how they organized the segments and classified them is really pretty good stuff.
Right.
Really is.
And then just one other thing in regards to that state project, in regards to the sidewalk on the other side of the reservoir. They're also doing 2 more projects in town, and they're gonna have a public hearing on those 2 also. So if we hear of the date, maybe we can make it public. They said that they're gonna try to put the next 2 projects in one public hearing. So, if we see it, maybe we can let the people know.
Sure.
I already spoke to Nancy about it. Sterling, Nancy, got the grant? Sterling?
I still am, it's supposed to be in the budget. I sent you an email.
Okay.
Right.
In this year's budget, there's money for the town of Sterling for senior center. So, I'm gonna just address that again to see if our town can get some state funding for, our senior center purchase.
As a follow-up to that, on September 16th, I invited both of our legislators in. I have a confirmation from Rep. O'Day's office, and we were gonna pose the same questions we did last time. Let's find out about the library funding, the guardrail replacement, the Goodale Park project, see if they have money for senior centers, and see if they have anything for police stations. If you have anything more you'd like to add, I'd be happy to add it to the list.
We can ask Representative O'Day on that night in regards to this project, if he's heard any updates from DOT.
Sure.
Just how throwing a few extra million.
Add a few zeros.
We haven't got,
While we're doing it, just give us a couple million for whatever we might have going down the road.
not a bond bill, give us the money.
Next Wednesday, we have a first meeting.
Next Wednesday?
Right, we need to chat about the agenda.
You wanna do it later?
We'll do it tomorrow.
And then I know we're talking about DPW and stuff like that, intersections, Woodland Street, is anything gonna happen? Is DPW gonna do that, or is that something an engineer's gonna do? Pinecroft area?
I
Do you-
can't answer
do you
that.
know?
I know you want to reconfigure the geometry up there.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I don't have a handle on that.
Why would you, I would stand like
I thought you were supposed to
We
do
just
that a
gotta
long
put up
time
some
ago.
barriers and force the people down this way.
So maybe we
Make
get an
the
update
turn
on
and be
that,
done with it.
an update on that in the Franklin Street, which is a dangerous intersection, as we all know.
No accidents there.
Take it one way.
Well, the Woodland one, Mr. Purcell, you know, I think 2 years ago was voted on, or a year and a half ago, was voted on and changed a handful of
Just a
times.
couple
I'm not exactly sure where it stands now.
Jersey barriers to block off the road. There's gonna be, as I recall, there's gonna be a public meeting with the people from Hull to let them know that we're gonna block off the straight shot down. They're gonna have to come down to the stoplight. And that was it. And then they were gonna put up the barriers, and it was gonna be changed.
Right, he was just gonna put
And that was it. Then it was gonna be reconstructed and
Well,
at any rate, it was not, it was gonna be plastic, those plastic Jersey
Right.
barriers in the beginning. So nobody ran into them and killed themselves, in case they go straight anyway. And then we were gonna make it more permanent
Right.
after a time. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, reach out to the police chief too, because he had some input on that.
He had
He set it
input,
up, yeah.
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 He had it all.
I'll try to find out which
It
end.
was pretty simple.
Did blow up to something more than we thought.
Motion to, go ahead.
No,
Regarding that Odell, Cass intersection, if you block that road, the traffic will be more, right? So we need to put like a four-way stop.
That was all in the
That was
plan.
all in the plan.
It's all in the plan to do things like that.
Yeah, that's the, we talked about this in the planning board, so modifying those things, you know, the order line, block that line, and then make it as a four-way.
Chief has got it.
What's
We
on?
already have the plan and it's already
Yes.
set up and it's all done. I
It's
don't know
done, but it's not done by the, you know,
why are you guys doing it?
We do it.
no, we just talked.
Why is the planning board doing it?
No, we
It's
just
ours.
talked about the earlier plan.
Our street, we're doing it, let's go.
I make a motion to adjourn.
So-
Second.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All right.